There is an ancient rhythm that pulses beneath all life. A beat so steady, so patient, that we often miss it in the haste of our modern minds. This rhythm doesn't conform to our calendars or clocks. It doesn't yield to our ambition or urgency. It is the quiet, sacred tempo of healing, a process as old as the stars, as intimate as the breath. And yet, in a world intoxicated by instant results and accelerated timelines, we've forgotten how to surrender to it. The healing journey is not a linear race to the finish line. It's not a task to complete or a project to perfect. It is a spiral, a deepening, a remembering. But when we try to rush this sacred unfolding, when we demand immediate transformation, quick closure, or swift resolution, we find ourselves caught in a paradox. The more we chase healing, the more it eludes us. Like a dream you try to recall too quickly, or a butterfly you try to grasp with force, the act of rushing distorts and even delays the very peace we seek. Why is this so? Because healing does not respond to force. It responds to presence, to patience, to profound listening. Rushing your healing journey is like trying to force open a flower bud with your fingers. You may reveal the petals, but you destroy the bloom in the process. Growth happens in its own divine timing, through seasons that often make little sense to the rational mind, but which are deeply necessary to the soul. We live in a culture that celebrates speed, fast results, instant gratification. We scroll through curated lives, measuring our inner wounds against someone else's highlight reel. We read motivational quotes that scream, "Just get over it," and we internalize the false belief that spiritual growth must be swift and constant. But the truth is, real healing, deep, soul-level healing, is slow. And that slowness is not a flaw. It is the very evidence of its depth. When we rush, we bypass. We suppress. We leap over the pain instead of sitting with it. We bandage what needs to be truly felt. But healing cannot be bypassed, and the soul will not be cheated. It will return again and again, through patterns, through people, through pain, until we slow down and truly face what is asking to be seen. In this video, we're going to explore why rushing your healing journey never works, not just from a psychological standpoint, but from a metaphysical one. We'll dive into the sacred mechanics of time, trauma, and transformation. We'll uncover why patience is not just a virtue but a spiritual technology. And perhaps most importantly, we'll remember that your healing is not on a deadline. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in process, and that process is sacred. So take a breath. Not the shallow kind, but the one that reaches down into your belly. The kind that reminds your nervous system it is safe to slow down. Because the moment you stop rushing, the real healing can begin. At the heart of the healing journey lies a paradox. The very pain we seek to escape often contains the key to our transformation. Yet to unlock it, we must be willing to stay, to linger in discomfort, to explore the shadows, to listen to what hurts instead of fleeing from it. Healing is not about fixing ourselves. It's about witnessing ourselves, wholly, tenderly, without judgment. And this witnessing cannot be rushed, because what is wounded resists speed. It softens only in the presence of sustained, compassionate attention. One of the core misconceptions in our spiritual culture is the idea that healing is an achievement, a destination we reach once we've meditated enough, forgiven enough, journaled enough. But healing is not linear, nor is it a straight path upward. It is a spiral, a looping journey that brings us again and again to the same themes, but from new heights of awareness. What you thought was dealt with may return, not because you failed, but because life is offering you another layer of depth, another chance to meet your pain with greater presence. In truth, healing is cyclical because life is cyclical. Just as the seasons turn, just as the moon waxes and wanes, so too does our inner evolution follow rhythms beyond the conscious mind. There are winters of introspection, where silence becomes the teacher. Springs of new insight. Summers of joy and aliveness. Autumns of letting go. Each season is necessary. But when we rush, we resist these natural rhythms. We demand perpetual summer, constant clarity, uninterrupted light. And in doing so, we dishonor the medicine of darkness, the gifts of stillness. The concept of spiritual bypassing emerges here, the act of using spiritual language or practices to avoid true emotional engagement. It's easy to talk about gratitude and high vibrations, but far harder to sit with grief, rage, abandonment. True healing asks that we make space for the entire spectrum. Not just the love and light, but the shadow and silence. And making space means making time, slowing down enough to let the body catch up with the mind, the heart catch up with the spirit. Time, in the realm of healing, is not measured in hours or days. It is measured in moments of deep presence. In breaths fully taken. In emotions fully felt. And paradoxically, the more present we are, the less we feel the need to rush. Because presence dissolves the illusion of urgency. In presence, there is only now, and in the now, all healing is possible. Another profound aspect of healing is its non-linear wisdom. What you heal today may ripple backward and forward in your timeline. A moment of deep release in the present can suddenly shed light on a wound you thought you had forgotten. Time in the metaphysical sense is not a straight road but a web, a tapestry of moments intricately connected. And when we stop rushing, we can move across that web with more grace, more insight, more wholeness. To heal is to remember, not just who you are, but who you've always been beneath the pain. A soul untouched by trauma, watching with infinite compassion as you navigate the layers of human experience. And this remembering unfolds like a flower, petal by petal, layer by layer. There is no rush. There is only rhythm. So the core truth begins to emerge: healing is not a race, it is a return. A return to slowness, to stillness, to the ancient pace of the soul. And in that return, something sacred awakens. Something that doesn't need to be fixed, only felt. Imagine, for a moment, a seed resting in the dark soil. It has no concept of the sun, no image of the blossom it will one day become. Its only guidance is an ancient whisper, an instinctual pull downward and inward, before it ever reaches for the light. If you were to dig it up every day to check its progress, to urge it forward, you would interrupt the mystery. You would destroy the very conditions required for its becoming. This is the paradox of growth, that it flourishes not through force, but through surrender to invisible processes. Your healing is like this seed. Buried not in darkness as punishment, but as protection. The pain you carry, the numbness, the ache, the silence, these are the fertile soils of transformation. But only if you allow yourself to remain there long enough for the roots to take hold. We rush because we fear what the dark might reveal, but the dark is where the sacred germinates. No tree rises without first ascending. No spirit soars without first grounding into truth. Across mythologies, we find echoes of this truth. Consider the story of Inanna, the Sumerian goddess who descends into the underworld. She sheds her garments, one by one, stripped of identity and power, until she is naked before the dark. She does not conquer the underworld. She surrenders to it. And in her surrender, she is reborn. The descent is not a detour, it is the way. So too with us. To rush is to resist the descent. To hurry is to cling to the surface, never allowing the deeper transformation to unfold. Or think of the ancient alchemists, who did not seek to turn lead into gold through haste or impatience. The alchemical process was long, slow, and deeply symbolic. The lead, representing the dense, unprocessed aspects of the self, had to be subjected to intense inner fire, distilled, purified, broken down again and again. Only through this prolonged inner work could it be transmuted into gold. Healing is the same. We are all alchemists of our own soul, and the rush to get better bypasses the sacred fire that makes the gold possible. Even nature reflects this in its sacred geometry. The spiral of a nautilus shell, the unfurling of a fern, the orbit of celestial bodies, all follow patterns of unfolding that cannot be rushed. There is no such thing as a hurried sunrise. There is no shortcut to the blooming of a rose. These symbols are reminders. The soul, too, has its own clock. Not mechanical, but divine. Not digital, but eternal. And what of the butterfly, often cited in healing metaphors? It is so often misunderstood. We imagine the caterpillar wrapping itself in a cocoon and emerging effortlessly transformed. But what we forget is that inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar dissolves completely. It becomes unrecognizable. It is not a gentle transition, but a death of form. And even then, the butterfly must struggle to emerge, not as punishment, but as preparation. That struggle strengthens its wings. To rush this emergence would cripple it. The cocoon cannot be opened early. The process cannot be bypassed. So what are these metaphors really telling us? They whisper that there is wisdom in waiting. That slowness is not stagnation, but sanctity. That in the depths of your sorrow, something luminous is being born. But you must allow it to take the time it needs. Healing is not a task on your to-do list, it is a sacred rite, an initiation into deeper versions of yourself. And all initiations require time, reverence, and surrender. You are not lost. You are becoming. And in becoming, you are returning, not to who you were, but to who you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the ache, beneath the rush. In the realm of lived experience, where metaphysical truths must take root in our ordinary days, the question becomes, how do we honor the sacred timing of our healing in a world that rarely waits? How do we move through our lives with the awareness that rushing disconnects us from the very wisdom we seek? The first step is to begin listening, truly listening, to the rhythm of your inner world. Not with the ears of your intellect, but with the quiet intuition of your body. The body never lies. It speaks in fatigue, in tightness, in breathlessness. It tells you when you are pushing too hard, bypassing too quickly, ignoring something essential. When we slow down enough to attune to these signals, we realize that our discomfort is not an enemy to be conquered, but a messenger bearing sacred instruction. In practice, this means allowing space between experiences. Not stuffing your schedule with distraction. Not leaping from insight to insight without integration. After a difficult conversation, a triggering memory, or a deep energetic release, pause. Breathe. Let the meaning settle. Journal not to fix, but to witness. Walk not to escape, but to reflect. The stillness between is where transformation takes hold. It also means shedding the illusion that there is a timeline you must meet. That you should have healed by now. That because others seem to be moving on, you must too. Healing is not a group race. It is a solitary pilgrimage into the sacred unknown. Some wounds take years to surface, and years more to dissolve. And that is not failure, that is fidelity. Fidelity to the truth of your soul's unfolding, not the expectations of others. In relationships, this perspective becomes vital. When we rush our healing, we often project unprocessed pain onto others. We enter connections not from wholeness, but from urgency. We expect others to fix what we have not yet faced. But when we slow down, when we honor our own emotional pacing, we create healthier bonds. We stop looking for rescuers and begin seeking witnesses, those who can hold space for our process without demanding we hurry it. Even our daily habits can reflect this shift. Eating slowly. Breathing deeply. Taking moments to rest without guilt. These are not small acts, they are radical reclamations of pace in a culture that idolizes speed. And in reclaiming our pace, we reclaim our power. Because healing is not something that happens to you, it is something you co-create, moment by moment, choice by choice. Perhaps the most profound integration is this, learning to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. The mind seeks resolution, wants to label, solve, move on. But the soul heals in the ambiguity, in the liminal spaces, the thresholds, the shadows. When you allow yourself to stay in the in-between, not pushing for closure, not demanding answers, something begins to soften. The wound, once so rigid, begins to breathe. And eventually, something shifts. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Because you trusted the intelligence of your own becoming. This is the path of sacred slowness. A path that asks you to walk gently with your inner child, to speak softly to your pain, to honor your own timing as divine. It's not about giving up, but about giving in, to the wisdom that lives in your breath, in your dreams, in your stillness. In this way, healing becomes not a destination, but a lifestyle. A devotion. A relationship. And every day that you choose to be present with your process, without judgment, without rush, you are already healing. You are already whole. There is a quiet revolution taking place in the hearts of many, a sacred turning inward. A realization that healing is not something we master, but something we live. It does not respond to pressure, nor unfold on demand. It is not a ladder we climb, but a spiral we circle, again and again, each time meeting ourselves more honestly, more humbly, more wholly. If you have ever felt like you're falling behind in your healing, take a breath. That belief is not coming from your soul, it is coming from the noise. The soul speaks in seasons, not deadlines. It knows that the winter has its purpose, just as spring does. That the stillness is as vital as the blooming. Your journey may not look like anyone else's, and that is not a detour, that is the sacred path of your becoming. We must learn to reframe what we call progress. Sometimes healing means getting up and trying again. Sometimes it means lying down and weeping. Sometimes it is dancing wildly in celebration, and other times it is sitting in silence, holding your own hand in the dark. Every part of it counts. Every breath is a step. Every moment of presence is a miracle. And when you slow down long enough to truly see yourself, not as broken, not as behind, but as becoming, something deep begins to shift. You stop measuring your worth by your milestones. You stop comparing your pain to others' timelines. You start honoring the invisible work, the quiet courage it takes to keep showing up, even when it's messy, even when it hurts. That's where the true alchemy lies, in the mundane moments of truth. The morning you choose to be gentle with yourself. The night you let yourself cry without shame. The conversation where you finally say, "I'm not okay," and mean it. These are not detours, they are holy. So, let this be your invitation, to return to the rhythm of your soul. To choose slowness not as a weakness, but as a strength. To honor your process as sacred. To understand that healing is not a linear march forward, but a sacred dance with mystery, memory, and meaning. You do not need to arrive anywhere. You are not late. You are not lost. You are living the ceremony. You are walking the spiral path. And in your slowness, you are already becoming the medicine, for yourself, and for a world that desperately needs people who have dared to go slow, to feel deeply, and to love what they find in the mirror. So breathe. Return. Trust. The healing is already happening. And it's right on time.